We've been married 30 years this coming May. 30 years. I was planning something special. Nothing fancy, I can't afford fancy, but something meaningful. A quiet dinner. A necklace I saw at the jeweler's, one she pointed at last fall when we walked by. I saved up for months. Even picked up some weekend hours fixing up the school's old boiler to make it happen. Our daughter, Ella, is away at college now. First in the family to go. I thought once it was just the two of us again, Angie, and I would fall back into that comfortable rhythm. Movie nights. Slow mornings. A little peace. But that never came. She's been different lately. Distant. Quick to pick fights. Always on her phone. She started working late, which was strange. Her boutique closes at 6. She said she was catching up on orders, doing inventory. I didn't question it at first. I figured maybe business was tough, and she didn't want to worry me. I still believed the best in her. A couple weeks ago, I came home early from a school holiday break. I bought the necklace and was planning to hide it in the closet until our anniversary. While I was looking for a safe spot, I saw her new purse on the top shelf. It was unzipped. I swear I wasn't snooping. But when I reached to move it, a card slipped out. A hotel keycard. No name, no room number. Just the name of a downtown hotel. One of those trendy places where every lamp costs more than my car. I stood there holding it, my mind trying to make excuses. Maybe she planned a surprise. Maybe she got it from someone else. Maybe. No. I knew. I set it back exactly where it was. I didn't say a word when she came home that night, humming and glowing like she'd just won the lottery. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. And maybe, to her, nothing was. But that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always come with screaming or slam doors. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it walks right past you and pretends it's just tired. That night, I laid next to her in bed while she slept peacefully beside me. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my heart thudding in slow, deliberate pain. I didn't confront her. I just made a decision. I was going to find out everything, and I was going to let her hang herself with her own rope. Because after 3 decades of loyalty, she owed me the truth, and I was finally ready to take it. I didn't sleep much after that night. It wasn't just the hotel keycard. It was the way everything started clicking together once I saw it. The late nights. The new perfume. The way she'd suddenly start smiling at her phone, then set it face down like it was some private joke I wasn't allowed in on. You don't want to believe it, even when the truth's staring you in the face. You keep hoping there's some innocent explanation. Something that'll make you feel stupid instead of gutted. But I wasn't stupid. And I wasn't going to let her play me like I didn't have eyes in my head. So I started watching. Angie didn't notice at first. She'd gotten too comfortable, I think. Used to me keeping my head down, never asking questions. That was my fault. I'd made it easy. I didn't press when she said she had evening appointments with potential investors for the boutique. I didn't ask who she was texting at midnight. I trusted her completely. That kind of blind loyalty? Turns out, it's the easiest thing in the world to take advantage of. The following Saturday, I told her I was picking up an extra shift at the school. She kissed me on the cheek and said she'd be at the shop all day. But I never went to work. Instead, I parked across the street from her boutique around 10 a.m. and waited. By 11:15, she walked out wearing a black coat I'd never seen before, heels clicking against the sidewalk. She wasn't carrying any inventory. No paperwork. Just her purse and that same nervous energy I used to see on first dates. She didn't go to work. She got in her car and drove downtown. I followed from a distance. Not too close, not too far. Like I said, I've been walking high school halls for 30 years. I know how to be invisible. She pulled into the parking garage next to the same hotel from the keycard. I sat there in my truck, engine running, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. Part of me hoped she was meeting a client. Some women's clothing exec. A rep. Someone professional. But deep down, I knew. 15 minutes later, I saw him. Younger than her. Mid-30s, maybe. Dressed sharp, casual confidence. He strolled out of the garage and met her in the hotel lobby like it was routine. He kissed her on the cheek, then the lips. My stomach turned. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. They disappeared into the elevator together. I didn't follow them. I didn't need to. I just sat there in the truck, gripping the wheel like it might keep me from falling apart. When I got home, I went through her boutique's website. Found the About Us page. There he was. Travis. Her co-investor. Her creative partner. Suddenly, everything made sense. The late nights. The sudden confidence boost. The way she lit up when she talked about expanding the brand. She wasn't building something with me anymore. She was building a new life, and she didn't think I'd notice. That's when the anger started to replace the hurt. Not yelling, not rage, just cold, clear anger. She thought I'd never figure it out. She thought I'd sit back and accept whatever crumbs she gave me, like a dog at the dinner table. But she was wrong. I'd already given her 30 years of loyalty. Now, I was going to give her something else. I was going to give her the truth, wrapped in a bow, in front of everyone she thought she had fooled. Once I saw them together at that hotel, there was no going back. It was like a light switch flipped in my head. Every excuse, every story, every so-called late night at the boutique, it all started sounding like a script. A badly written one at that. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than what I saw. I needed something undeniable. Something she couldn't lie her way out of. Because I knew the moment I put the evidence in front of her, she'd deny, deflect, cry, maybe even try to flip the blame on me. No. This time, I was going to be ready. So I watched, listened, waited. The next week, I kept track of everything. Where she went, what time she left, how long she was gone. I wrote it down like a ledger. One night she said she was staying late to process returns, but her car never moved from Travis's apartment for 5 hours. She always came home like nothing happened. Kiss on the cheek, small talk over reheated leftovers, a quick, "I'm tired," before disappearing upstairs. It was surreal, like living next to a stranger in my own house. Then came the moment that sealed it. Angie had left her tablet on the kitchen counter, charging. I was cleaning up after dinner when a notification popped up. Not a message, not a call, a shared photo album. Weekend in St. Louis. From Travis. I tapped it. Photos filled the screen. Her and Travis at a rooftop bar. In bathrobes at a spa. Holding wine glasses, laughing. Her hand resting on his chest. One picture showed her wearing the earrings I gave her for our 20th anniversary. I stood there for a long time, just staring at that screen. Not crying. Not shaking. Just hollow. She'd taken my loyalty, my love, my decades, and handed them off to the first guy who made her feel younger. Flashier. That was the moment I stopped asking why. It didn't matter why. What mattered was what I was going to do about it. And that's when the idea started forming. I didn't want to just catch her. I wanted her to face it. In front of others. In front of the people she'd been bragging to about expanding the boutique and building a future. If she wanted to play this game, I was going to let her, all the way to the final hand. I started making quiet moves. Little ones at first. Called in a favor with an old friend who works in property records. Looked into who owned what in the boutique. Turns out, the business wasn't just theirs. It was legally ours, half mine. She never expected I'd look. She figured I was too passive, too checked out. But I'd signed the loan when she started the place. That meant she hadn't just been sneaking around. She'd been using me to fund her fantasy. That's when I started planning. 2 weeks from now was our wedding anniversary. 30 years. She had no idea I'd already reserved a private dining room at the Elm, the same restaurant we celebrated our 15th at. I told her I had a surprise for our big day. Told her to invite a few close friends, maybe even Travis, if he was so important to the business. She smiled, touched my hand, and said, "You're being so sweet lately." I smiled back. She didn't see what was coming, but she would, because I was done being quiet. I was done being the man she thought wouldn't fight back. It's funny how easy it is to find the truth when you stop trying to protect someone from it. Once I made the decision to see it all, really see it, the trail practically lit up in front of me. Angie wasn't careful. She didn't have to be. She thought I'd never look. The lies unraveled fast. I started with her emails. She never changed the password. Still used the same one she made when we signed up for Netflix back in 2009. Within 5 minutes, I was staring at a thread between her and Travis marked private, boutique expansion. But it wasn't about the store. It was about them. Where to meet. What nights were safe. Him writing things like, "I can't wait till we don't have to sneak around anymore." And, "I wish you didn't have to go home to him." She answered with hearts. Kisses. Promises she'd handle it soon. There was even a forwarded email from a realtor about an apartment listing perfect for 2. That's when my hands really started to shake. She wasn't just fooling around. She was planning a new life. One without me in it. I took screenshots of everything. Printed them out. Labeled them by date. Then I started looking into Travis. Turns out, the man wasn't quite who he pretended to be. He talked a big game about investing, branding, marketing. But all of his businesses were shallow, LLCs without profits, shell pages, Instagram photos to make it look like he was doing something. He wasn't building anything. He was a leech. And Angie had given him a vein. I dug deeper. Found out he had a girlfriend, long-term, actually. Her name was Tessa. She ran an event planning company just across town. I found her through his tagged photos. One of them was a Valentine's post from just 2 months ago. Her arm wrapped around his, captioned, "To the man who makes my life sweeter every day." I stared at that picture a long time before I decided what to do. I sent her a message. Nothing dramatic. Just the facts. "Hi Tessa. I'm not trying to stir up trouble. I think we need to talk. If you're seeing Travis, then I believe you deserve to know the truth." She didn't respond for 2 days. I figured she'd blocked me or dismissed it. Then, on the 3rd day, she wrote back. "Let's meet." I had a feeling. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of town. She was younger than I expected. Early 30s, sharp eyes, too smart to be stuck in a mess like this. She brought a manila envelope. So did I. We exchanged stories like 2 war survivors comparing scars. She'd known something was off, sudden work trips, odd hours, less affection. But she hadn't wanted to believe it. Until now. I showed her the photos, the emails, the hotel receipts. She showed me screenshots. Texts between Angie and Travis that she'd pulled from an old iPad. One from Angie read, "He still has no idea. I'll take care of it soon. Don't worry, the boutique is ours now." That hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't just betrayal. It was calculation. She thought she owned me, owned the business, owned the outcome. But she was wrong. I looked at Tessa and said, "You still want to help me?" She nodded. "Absolutely." So we planned. The dinner. The guest list. The exact moment everything would come out. Angie wanted to celebrate our anniversary? Fine. We'd give her a night she'd never forget. I'll say this, Tessa didn't hesitate. Once she saw the truth, she didn't crumble. She didn't cry or fall apart. She looked me in the eye and said, "Let's finish this together." We were an odd pair. Me, a middle-aged school janitor with 30 years of marriage unraveling in front of me, and her, a young businesswoman who just found out the man she thought she'd marry was nothing but a con in designer shoes. But grief, betrayal, it levels everything. Age, background, doesn't matter. Hurt is hurt. And revenge? That's a language we both understood real fast. Our plan needed to be quiet. Smart. We weren't going to scream in public or smash anyone's car windows. This wasn't about drama. This was about clarity, truth, and letting them watch their perfect little world fall apart piece by piece. I'd already booked the restaurant, The Elm, a place that meant something to Angie. It's where I proposed, actually. Back then we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, but I saved for months just to afford dinner there. Angie cried when I slid the ring across the table. Now we were going back. I told her it was a private celebration. 30 years, I said. Let's make it special. She lit up like it was the first time she'd heard me talk like that in years. Then she asked if we could invite a few people. Just friends from the boutique, she said. Maybe Travis could stop by later. I smiled. Sure. Invite whoever you want. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're being so sweet lately." Right. I sent out the real invitations that same night. Not just to our friends and family, but to a few investors she'd been courting for the boutique's expansion. Angie had no idea I still had access to the business contact list. She'd bragged for months about how Travis has the connections, how he was lining up funding to open a second location. I figured they'd both love a chance to impress those same investors, right up until we flipped the table. Tessa helped me with the guest list, even tracked down a few of Travis's old clients who'd been burned by his business scams. She was thorough. In the days leading up to the dinner, Angie floated around the house like a bride before a wedding. She picked out a new dress, got her hair done, started putting on perfume again. She even made me breakfast one morning, eggs and toast, like she used to in the early years. I almost laughed. She thought she'd won. She thought I was too small, too quiet, too blind. But the thing about quiet men, when we finally speak, we make sure it's heard. 2 days before the dinner, I stopped by the boutique while she was out. I still had a key. Inside, everything looked picture perfect. Polished shelves, scented candles, dresses lined up like soldiers. But beneath it all, rot. She'd built a business on my credit, my labor, my name on the loan, and she'd given it away to a man who hadn't earned a thing. So I made sure the papers were ready. Ownership documents, financial records, proof of my stake. A lawyer friend walked me through it. Travis and Angie might have played house, but I still held the deed. The day of the dinner, I ironed my shirt, polished my shoes, and took a long look in the mirror. 30 years. I gave her everything I had. Tonight, I was taking back what was mine. Not out of spite. Out of principle. Because some betrayals don't deserve a fight. They deserve a mirror. The night of the dinner felt like stepping into the final scene of a play I'd spent weeks rehearsing. Every detail was in place. Every prop carefully chosen. And the star of the show? She had no idea the script wasn't written for her. We arrived at the Elm around 6:30. Angie looked radiant, I'll admit. She wore a deep burgundy dress, the kind of thing that hugs just tight enough to say she knew she'd be noticed. Her hair curled, lips red, perfume sweet but sharp. She looked like a woman who thought she'd won. The hostess led us to the private dining room I'd reserved. Soft lighting, white linens, the kind of place where people toast to new beginnings. Angie glanced around, clearly impressed. "This is wow," she whispered. "Doug, this is beautiful." I smiled. Thought 30 years deserved something memorable. She nodded and kissed me on the cheek. "You're full of surprises lately." "Oh, you have no idea." The guests arrived one by one. A few couples we'd known for years. Some boutique investors Angie had been courting. And then, right on cue, Travis. He walked in like he owned the room. Slick smile, tailored jacket, hair that looked like it hadn't moved since breakfast. He greeted Angie with a warm hug, too warm, right in front of me, like I wasn't even there. That was fine. Let him get comfortable. Let them both feel untouchable. As everyone settled in, I stepped aside and nodded to Tessa, who had just walked in unnoticed. She wore all black. Subtle. Focused. She blended right in. No scene, no fuss. She took a seat at the end of the table, just close enough to hear every word. Dinner started with small talk. Laughter. Toasts. Angie played the doting wife perfectly. Bragged about the boutique, the next phase of their brand. One of the investors asked if I was involved. She waved her hand. "Doug's just supportive," she said, smiling. "He believes in us." Us. I sipped my water. Not yet. Not quite. Dessert came out around 8. Chocolate mousse, Angie's favorite. That's when I stood up and cleared my throat. "Before we wrap up," I said, "I wanted to give my wife her gift." She looked surprised. "Doug, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," I said. 30 years is a long time. Deserves something special. I reached under the table and pulled out a small velvet box, the kind you'd expect jewelry in. Angie's eyes lit up. She opened it slowly. Inside wasn't a necklace. Not this time. Inside was a stack of folded papers. Emails. Photos. Text messages. She looked up at me, confused at first. Then she started reading. Her smile disappeared in layers. Travis leaned over, trying to get a look. "What is that?" Angie's hands began to tremble. The room fell silent. I stepped forward, my voice calm. I wanted everyone here to see the truth. Angie hasn't just been building a business with Travis. She's been building a relationship. Behind my back. Using my money. My name. My time. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. "And Travis," I added, looking right at him, "you might want to talk to your girlfriend about what she found on your iPad." Tessa stood up in the corner. Travis's jaw tightened. "What the hell is this?" "I think you know," I said, then turned back to the room. "To the investors here, you've been led to believe this boutique belongs to them. But legally, I'm the co-owner. And I'll be making some changes." Nobody said a word. Angie's face went pale. Tessa walked over and calmly set her own stack of papers on the table. "In case anyone wants to see what these two have been up to." Angie looked at me, finally speaking in a whisper. "Doug, please, we can talk about this." I shook my head. "We just did." You could have heard a pin drop. The dining room, so full of laughter just minutes ago, had gone completely still. Forks frozen midair. Eyes wide. Even the music from the hallway seemed to fade out as the weight of what just happened settled in. Angie sat there, still holding the open velvet box like she wasn't sure whether to shut it, hide it, or throw it across the room. Her fingers hovered over the pages, the proof of every lie, every late shift, every stolen moment she thought she could keep buried. She looked at me. Not angry, not smug, just stunned. I think that was the first time in years she truly didn't know what to say. Across from her, Travis shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Tessa had placed her envelope of evidence directly in front of him, like a prosecutor laying out her case. His face flushed red, his jaw tightening as he read the screenshots of text she'd pulled from his tablet. He didn't look at Angie. He didn't even defend her. He just leaned back, muttered something about needing air, and stood up to leave. Tessa didn't stop him. She didn't yell, didn't chase. She just watched him go. That's when Angie finally spoke. Her voice was low, cracked at the edges. Doug. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I nodded slowly. I know you didn't. That's the problem. Tears welled up in her eyes. But they weren't grief. They were panic. Not the heartbreak of losing someone, but the fear of losing control. She looked around the room and realized people weren't looking at her the same way anymore. The investors, the friends, even the staff, they weren't seeing the polished boutique owner or devoted wife. They were seeing a liar, a fraud. You ambushed me, she said quietly. You planned this. I did, I replied, calm as ever, because I needed you to stop pretending. She opened her mouth, probably to say I was cruel, that I could have handled it privately, that I'd embarrassed her, but I didn't give her the chance. 30 years, I said, and I never once lied to you. Never once stepped out. Never once made you feel small or unwanted. I worked. I saved. I believed in you. She looked down at the box again. The papers spread like a trap she never saw coming. You used me, Angie. You used my name, my money, my time. You thought I wouldn't find out. Or worse, that I'd find out and just accept it. Her hands clenched. I didn't want to hurt you. No, I said. You just didn't care if you did. A few guests stood quietly and started gathering their things. One of the investors, a woman named Janice who had been nodding along quietly, walked over and handed me her card. If you ever decide to take full ownership, she whispered, give me a call. I invest in people who still know what integrity looks like. I thanked her. Angie just stared, eyes wide, still unable to process how fast it had all unraveled. She tried once more, her voice barely a whisper. Doug, can we go home and talk? I paused, then gently pushed the box back toward her. You already opened your gift. And I turned to leave. I didn't look back. Not once. As I walked out of that dining room, I heard the scrape of chairs, the soft murmur of guests excusing themselves. But I didn't care who stayed or who left. The moment had passed. The truth had landed. And she couldn't return it. I stepped out into the cool night air, breathing deep for the first time in weeks. Maybe longer. My chest felt lighter. Not because the pain was gone, it wasn't. But because I'd finally stopped carrying it alone. Angie didn't follow me. I don't know if she froze at the table or tried to spin a story afterward. Maybe she told everyone it was a misunderstanding. Maybe she cried. Maybe she didn't. That part of the story's not mine to finish. Mine ended when I chose myself. I drove home in silence. No music. Just the hum of the engine and the occasional turn signal ticking off the last moments of that chapter of my life. When I got to the house, it hit me. Everything was about to change. I walked through the front door and saw the framed photo on the entryway table. Me and Angie on our honeymoon. Her smile so bright. My arms around her, proud. I picked it up, looked at it a long time, then set it face down. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I'd already prepped everything weeks ago, copies of the business documents, evidence of the affair, proof of financial misuse. I didn't want to drag it out, but I wasn't walking away empty-handed, either. Half the boutique was mine on paper, and I intended to claim it. Let her try to explain that to her investors. She didn't come home that night, or the night after. Eventually, she texted, "Can we please talk? Just us." I didn't respond. She called once. I let it ring. Then she sent a message that felt like a final, desperate grasp for the upper hand. I never meant to hurt you. I was confused. Travis made me feel seen. Seen. That word sat heavy in my chest. I used to think love was about staying, about showing up, about working through the rough patches. And I did all that. For decades. But maybe love, real love, doesn't make you disappear in your own home. Maybe it doesn't make you invisible. I didn't reply to her message. What was left to say? She made her choice. She handed 30 years to a man with a slick haircut and no backbone. And when she realized she'd traded a husband for a con artist, it was too late. I'd already walked away. And it wasn't just from the marriage. It was from the version of myself that thought silence was strength. That thought love meant enduring, no matter the cost. I was done enduring. The fallout came quickly after that. Word got around. Investors pulled out. Boutique sales tanked. Travis was caught trying to move funds behind Angie's back. Tessa made sure that reached the right people. And Angie? She came to the house once. Knocked. Waited. Knocked again. I didn't open the door. Not because I hated her, but because I'd already closed it. She stood there for a while, arms crossed, eyes wet, then finally walked back to her car and drove away. That was the last time I saw her. And you know what? It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It just felt finished. They say the truth sets you free. What they don't tell you is, it buries the people who've been living in lies. In the weeks after the dinner, I didn't chase updates on Angie or Travis. I didn't need to. People talk, especially in a town like ours. The boutique, once the darling of Main Street, started slipping fast. Customers stopped coming in. Word spread, some whispered, some loud, about the scandal, about the investors backing out, about Travis disappearing practically overnight. I heard he skipped town, left behind unpaid invoices, 2 months' rent, and a stack of broken promises. Tessa wasn't surprised. She'd seen his kind before. Charm on the outside, rot underneath. Angie tried to recover. She posted online like nothing happened. Sales, new arrivals, inspirational quotes about resilience and healing. But people weren't buying it, literally and figuratively. I'd filed the divorce paperwork 2 days after the dinner. Served it through my lawyer, no notes, no warnings. Just a clean, quiet delivery. She tried calling, messaging, even wrote a letter. Please don't throw away everything we built. I didn't throw it away. She did. She handed it over one hotel night at a time. I let the lawyer do the talking. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. I waived spousal support. Didn't ask for anything more than what was legally mine. Half the boutique, my name off her debt. And the house, I kept it. She'd moved into a 1-bedroom apartment above a nail salon 2 blocks from the shop. People said they saw her sitting out front some mornings, smoking something she hadn't done in years. Looking smaller than she used to. Like the air had gone out of her. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt peace. And that was enough. I still walked past the boutique now and then. Not to gloat. I wasn't that kind of man, but just to remind myself that the storm had passed. The sign in the window read, "Closing soon. Everything must go." Fitting. A few of the investors I'd met at the dinner reached out, asking if I planned to do anything with my half of the store. I told them no. I had no interest in salvaging the ruins. What I built with her was over, and I wasn't dragging any of it into my new life. One afternoon, I got coffee with Tessa. Not a date. Just 2 people who'd been through the same fire, sitting across from each other with quiet understanding. She smiled over her cup. "You look better," she said. "Lighter." "I feel lighter," I replied. She looked down for a second, then said, "I still think about it, you know, about how easily they lied. How confident they were that we'd never find out." "Yeah," I said. "But they did us a favor." She raised an eyebrow. "A favor?" "Now we know exactly who they are," I said. "And we never have to doubt ourselves again." She smiled. This one was real, not the tired smile of someone surviving, but the kind that said she meant it. We didn't make any promises. Didn't talk about the future. We just sat, sipping coffee as the sun filtered through the cafe window. 2 people moving forward. On my way home, I took the long route, past the park where Angie and I used to take Ella when she was small. Past the school where I still worked. Past the house I now lived in alone. But not lonely. There's a difference. Lonely is waiting for someone to come home who's already left you in their heart. Alone is walking into peace and closing the door behind you.